So I thought we would kind of wrap up, or at least potentially wrap up, this recent discussion we've had about the idea of just persisting. Persistence, which is such a common bit of advice that we hear in the LOA and law of assumption space, especially online. You hear all this stuff, particularly when it relates to things like robotic affirming, like using a kind of a monotonous technique to just persist. Just persist. And as we've gone over the last couple videos and hopefully made more clear to you, if it wasn't already somewhat clear before, is that just persisting is not going to be that effective for you in all likelihood unless that persistence comes from a state of positive expectation, a state of, inner, one could say peace or calmness, a state or an outlook which basically is saying what I want is going to happen. I can trust in this process. I can trust in, you can say your imagination, trust in the natural abundance or the life-giving abundance of the universe. Or if you want to use this purely spiritual language, I can trust in God and know that my desires will be actualized in my world by trusting, by persisting in this state of positive faith and expectation. By having this belief that this is going to happen and not just saying something over and over again, but imagining it's not going to happen, it will happen in some significant and, fulfilling way in my life. That's persisting correctly. And what we see time and time again is this superficial presentation of just persisting, where you hear a teacher or some online guru talking about just persist, and they don't tell you how to do it. So what happens is you inadvertently end up persisting in the state you don't want to be in, the state where you're still like, well, I don't think this is actually going to happen. I don't know. How is this going to happen? How is this going to happen? I don't know. While if we're just persisting correctly, we aren't really that concerned about the how or concerned at all, because we have faith in our imagination, in the natural abundance of the universe, in God, that it's going to happen. And the how is not up to us. Our job, if you want to call it that, is to have the positive expectation and belief that it is going to happen, that it will be taken care of, that I will take the proper external actions that feel aligned with what I have to do, that I feel inspired to take, and that it's going to happen. But it's not my job to figure out how. That's going to naturally happen imaginatively, subconsciously. God will figure it out. That's God's job. And again, because this is discussed so poorly, people get terribly confused about this and end up just persisting in the incorrect way. For instance, saying, for instance, an SP situation, like, I'm now with this person. I'm now with this person. I'm now with this person. And they don't actually have the faith that they're with the person or that they're going to be with the person. That's not actually what they're imagining. They're saying, they're perhaps robotically affirming, I'm now with this person or I'm going to be with this person. And it's fine to say I'm going to be. It doesn't have to be I now am with. If you say I am going to be with this person and believe it, it will happen in all likelihood. At least you'll get fulfillment by saying that. But what people often do, I would say the majority of the time, is they say, I'm going to be with this person or I am now with this person. And then their imagination combats that by saying, no, you're not. You actually are not. This is actually not going to happen. And that train of thought is still the dominant train of thought. And it overwhelms your affirmation that it is going to happen. Because imaginatively, you still think it's not going to happen. You get Emile Coué's law of reversed effort in action when you do that. And this is sneaky. This is something like Cecilia and I discussed the other day. I'll put a link above to that as well. You know, this is sneaky. This is something that happens to all of us. It's very easy to have faith on paper, right? You hear this stuff, you say, oh, I have faith. I have faith. I believe. I'm going to persist and have faith. But imaginatively, when you actually are doing it, you might be surprised. I hope you're not. I hope you just have faith and that's it. And you just, expect it to happen, and then it inevitably does happen. But for most of us, the vast majority of us, we are going to be imaginatively challenged. We are going to come up against mental and emotional resistance. And this is the kind of thing that I talk about on this channel, and a few other YouTube channels might talk about it some. But we always talk about it here. Because this is what you're actually going to be dealing with. And this is what I love, working on myself, for myself. And it's what I love working with people on. You work with me, you get coached by me, so we can work on this resistance. This imaginative doubt that you have, or that I have, or that we all have in some way. And this is the elephant in the room for the manifesting community at large. Because most YouTube channels, virtually every other law of assumption channel you're going to find, at least that I know of, is not going to talk about this openly. They're going to say that somebody like myself is being negative and pessimistic. And that's fine. That can be your assumption or your conclusion. But my conclusion is you're full of fucking shit if you say that. I'm talking about how this actually works for good and bad. And I want it to work good for you. And it works well for you if we can acknowledge these common issues that nobody seemingly wants to talk about, look them in the face, and start working on ourselves to resolve them. That's what we do. That is the law of assumption, the law of attraction in action, really doing it. Not just these catchphrases, just persist. People have no fucking idea how to just persist. It ain't easy. Someone who did know how to do it and who explained it better than just about anybody that I know of, at least from a spiritual angle, is H. Emily Cady, who we've read from the last, recently in a couple videos. I'm going to read the end of Trusting and Resting, which is the essay that I read last week. And it's just one of her, numerous great essays that delves into this subject of persisting and how we can persist correctly and have faith in our imagination, our subconscious, or as she liked to say, she used purely spiritual language, faith in God. So, she wrote, this is, I think, where we ended the excerpt last time. Cady wrote, so God delivers when fully trusted, perfectly, fully, even beyond anything we have asked or thought, adding good that we have never dreamed of, as though to give double assurance of God's favor and love to any who will trust God. You could also say anyone who will trust their imagination, or anyone who will trust their subconscious to work wonders. Cady says, this is the victory of the Lord on your behalf when you stand still. She goes on to write in Trusting and Resting. This is a wonderful ending to this wonderful essay. This is real just persisting advice, guys, okay? So listen to this if you're curious about this subject. She says, we must learn that the time of help coming to us is not our part, but God's. We do know that in all the accounts in Scripture of those who realize God's special deliverance from their troubles, from Abraham's going forth to sacrifice his son, to the time when Jesus put out his hand to save the sinking and faithless Peter, and even after this in the experience of the apostles, This invisible power came to hand just at the right time always, never a moment too late. The promise is God will help it when the morning dawns. That's from Psalm 46. Or as the Hebrew reads, at the turning of the morning, which means the darkest moment before dawn. So if, in whatever matter you are trying to exercise trust in your Father, the way grows darker and the help goes further away instead of coming into sight, you must grow more peaceful and still than ever. And then you may know that the moment of deliverance is growing nearer with your every breath. In Mark's account of that early morning visit of the women to the tomb of Jesus, when bent on an errand of loving service, they forgot the immense stone lying across their path until they were almost at their journey's end. And then one exclaimed in momentary dismay, "Who will roll away the stone for us from the entrance to the tomb?" When they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had already been rolled back. It's from Mark 16. Is not very large full of meaning? The very greatness of the difficulty that made it impossible for the women to remove it was the more reason why it was done by this invisible power. Man's extremity is God's opportunity. The more we are cut off from human help, the greater claim we can make on divine help. The more impossible a thing is to human or mortal power, the more at peace we can be when we look to the Lord for deliverance. For the Lord said, "My power is made perfect in weakness." It's from Paul in 2 Corinthians. And Paul, realizing that when he placed less confidence in the mortal, he had more help from the divine, said, "Whenever I, the mortal, am weak, then I am strong." Trusting means resting confidently. We are to rest confidently, saying, God is my strength, God is my power, God is my assured victory. I will trust in him, and he will bring it to pass. Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Psalm 37. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to put confidence in princes. It's from Psalm 118. Those of steadfast mind you keep in peace because they trust in you. It's from Isaiah 26. So that's H. Emily Cady, Trusting and Resting, the end of that essay. Again, this is written in the 1890s. She wrote this. Really great advice. And if we don't want to use spiritual language, if we want to use more psychological language, I guess you could say, we could replace God, this power, this presence, with, imagination or your subconscious. But regardless, this is this is grown up, no bullshit advice when it comes to persisting and what the process is actually like. And again, this is a huge part, you could say, of the inner work that we do. If you would like help, I'm here to provide coaching. I love working with people on this. If you're new to this channel, if you don't know, I do not respond to comments on YouTube. But if you want to contact me, I'll gladly provide you some brief email support, or even get on the phone or Zoom with you for a brief consultation to see if I can be a help. I can be reached at info@radicalcounselor.com. I hope this was helpful. I really suggest checking out H. Emily Cady if you never have. And have a good day.